And hi again, everyone. Welcome to Bay Sunny. I'm your host, Frank Malika. We got a special show. It's all about books today and authors. If you'd like to connect with us, all you got to do is pitch us a show idea. We'd love to hear from you. Go to cbssf.com, click on Connect, and we'll get you the information and links you need to know to our email, social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the works. Our first guest has been nominated for a Pulitzer, taught at Harvard, Dartmouth, and most recently at Cal for some 35 years, I guess, teaching creative writing. In his new novel, Juice, he takes us back to the O.J. Simpson trial that focuses in on race in the media. Pleased to have Ishmael Reed with us. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Frank.
Good to have you on board. Well,
Glad to be
let's
here.
start. I mean, the trial was, what, 16, 17 years ago? Why now?
I began writing the book as soon as I heard of the murders. I was in Hawaii and began to collect information and watching television, and came up with this book. It was published last year by Dalkey Archives, the Dalkey Archives in Chicago. So there are a number of different characters. The principal character loses his wife and his family and his friends because he insists upon O.J.'s innocence.
And is this something that evolved the day? Do you remember where you were the day the verdict came down? I think we all do.
We were having dinner at a place called, it's a former sugar mill that was converted into a restaurant in Hawaii, in Honolulu. And I remember the irony of the NBA players. It was the finals for the NBA.
Right, the Bulls.
And it was a split screen with O.J.
Oh, I know. I was a sports guy at the time. I'm watching the Chicago
amazing.
Bulls, and one, and then O.J. and
So I
the
use a
jury
little basketball stuff in here,
Sure.
basketball metaphors in the book.
How long did it take you to write? Did you take all that time before you released it?
Yeah, it took me up until last year, from 1994 up until last year.
So it was kind of your pet project that
It
you
certainly
write a
was.
little, put it away, write a little?
And the protagonist, if you want to call him that, the person with most lines, is a cartoonist whose cartoons are shown on late night television, on the news, during the news. Remember KPFA had a cartoonist who, not KPFA, but KQED had a cartoonist who showed his cartoons at night. So this cartoonist is illustrating, scenes from the trial, and he gets into trouble with the producers.
There you go. Well, going back to how did that affect the verdict? How did that affect African Americans, the community?
I think in terms of African American males, there was a sort of collective blame, so that O.J. symbolized all black men. We all became O.J.
Right.
And it affected us because, when you're viewed collectively, it always does affect you, influences your everyday life. And I'll give you an example. I was in New Orleans a few weeks after the verdict, and people stopped tipping the black busboys as a protest against the verdict. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think Oprah Winfrey mentioned something like that. That was like a backlash on all black guys.
And what do you hope your readers take from your novel?
Well, I try to entertain, and I also try to mix things up. So, for example, there are court transcripts in this. There are news quotes, and my cartoons. Now, a major publisher wanted to publish a book, but he said my cartoons were not good enough. So I went to the Cartoon Museum, excuse me, over here in San Francisco, and studied with a private tutor. So my cartoons got better. Matter of fact, some of them appear at the SF Gate San Francisco Chronicle blog, my cartoons. So I have about 17 or 18, excuse me, illustrations in the novel. I'm really a little hurt because some of the critics don't mention the cartoons. I worked so hard on them.
well, they look great, I know. And your cartoonist is who?
Excuse me.
The man that drew the cartoons?
He was a protagonist. He doesn't give his name away in the book. But what he was he was in the counterculture originally. And he had a badger character called Attitude the Badger, who's like this militant badger who stands in for like counterculture, militant figure. But when he sells out, he has a benign old badger. And then when the O.J. Simpson verdict comes in, or the trial comes in, he changes to becoming a militant again, and loses credibility with the producer and the sponsors.
What kind of reaction have you gotten from the African American community? And have you heard from anybody that was either part of the trial or from the Simpson family or anything like that?
I haven't heard from many of those people, but one syndicated columnist said I'd gone too far. This time Ishmael Reed has gone too far. he found the novel hard to take. So I entitled my new book, Going Too Far.
Oh, there you
and
go.
It's going to be published in Montreal. So he doesn't know how far I've gone, really gone.
Well, before we go, I know you got an article just published in Playboy.
Playboy.
And what is that about?
Well, I trace the, first of all, I talk about the period during the 1950s when people thought that each generation would do better. Like I talk about my stepfather, who worked for 35 years at Chevrolet. He worked in a factory. And he thought that his children would do better than his generation. And the spokesperson for the common man those days was Harry S. Truman.
Yeah.
So I found a speech.
Buck stops here.
I found a speech, an obscure speech, that Harry Truman made to an audience in Harlem. 65,000 people showed up because he was a hero for African Americans. You know, blacks didn't start receiving Social Security until the Harry Truman period. The whites began receiving Social Security in the 1930s. Blacks didn't receive Social Security until the 1950s because most of them were domestic workers or farmers. Harry Truman brought that about. He desegregated the armed forces. He had all these, so 65,000 people showed up. And so he blamed the Southern strategy on Eisenhower. The popular opinion,
Sure.
the conventional opinion is that it was Nixon who began the Southern strategy. But Harry Truman says he's down in the South. Eisenhower going around these Southern governors. What do you think he's telling these Southern governors? And this was Harry Truman's speech in Harlem.
Always thought-provoking. Okay, Ishmael, thanks so much
Thank
for
you very
coming
much,
in. We
Frank.
wish you all the best with the book and
Thank
with the
you.
article in Playboy right now. And thanks for joining us right here on Bay Sunday.
Well, I enjoyed it.
You can get a copy of Juice at ishmaelreedpub.com. We'll be right back right after the break with another author. Stay right there.